Okay, there we go.
Are we live?
Oh, we are live. I have the same water bottle, I think.
We're live right now?
Yes, or not live, but recording. Yeah. We
Oh.
should do it live at some point. Not that anyone would watch or anything, but
I
yeah. Or maybe, I don't know.
don't know. We'll have maybe Brian plug it on his show or something on his showcase.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's so weird because now everything's changed. Now, like, podcasts are actually important, kind of. Not
Yeah,
really. Yeah.
not important, but widespread.
Yeah. Just like AIDS or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
Late. Yeah.
is podcast an art? No, but essayism is an art, and you can do that on a podcast.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, podcast is not an art, it's a medium, everybody.
That's a good point. I think people get those confused. Yeah.
There's a difference.
Yeah. We should just have a meta episode where we just break things down into
Yeah,
very like yeah.
people are like, television, it's an art. Like, no, it's not, it's a medium.
Yeah, it's a transference. It's what's on the medium that matters, you idiots. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right, David.
film is an art. No, it's not, it's what you put over your pizza.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Are you going to compare, The Cat in the Hat to Crime and Punishment? I mean, they're technically both books, but yeah. God, people are so
Yeah,
fucking stupid. Yeah.
it's great. I love it. If people weren't stupid, there would not be comedy.
Oh yeah, of course. That's
Yeah.
yeah.
There would just be people like the off chance we say the comedians can say something witty every so often, like regular people, but we have to be funny all the time, so we end up filling that time with stupid shit.
Yeah, but now it's like no one has a sense of humor though. Like no one even gets jokes anymore, which is weird. I don't know.
People get jokes, they're just afraid to sometimes, I
Yeah,
think.
like I sort of have a theory that people are getting less and less witty when it comes to like humor. That
Yeah.
just that no one wants to go the extra mile and be like, oh, that's why. They're like, oh, I don't get it, so it sucks. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't get it. Or they go, that's weird.
Yeah, like they're so afraid to even like try to get. They're like, no, it's actually weird. So I'm not even gonna
No.
try. Yeah.
It's just I'm putting into the category of weird.
I hate
Like,
that. They really are like a scared animal, just afraid to
yeah,
disgusting. Yeah.
disgusting.
Is it a Lord of the
They're
Flies shirt?
yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, we should just talk about that guy. William Golding was
Oh yeah.
an attempted rapist.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah,
No.
yeah.
Yeah,
When he
they
was
always
like
those
when
authors do like doing that. That's a
when he was like 15, and then he wrote about it when he was older. He was like, "I was a bad kid, man."
uh,
Yeah,
which could be innocent. Like they're like, oh, as a bad kid, I stole some candy. If he said, oh, as a bad kid, I was a rapist. So
yeah. He was
that
like,
would be good.
I tried to rape somebody one time." That's what he wrote.
Man,
And he was like, "I feel real bad." You're like, Add a Golding, I guess."
Jesus.
Yeah.
Well, that's amazing that his book was so good that somehow it didn't interfere with it at all.
Yeah, it just, I think he was such a good author, he educated himself out of being a sexual predator.
Jesus. Also, it was back
I don't
then
know.
when, like, rape survivors just had no credibility back then, so no one ever heard about
Yeah,
it. It's all good.
oh, it's crazy.
Absolutely mental.
Oh, that dude. Let's start the podcast here.
Yes, okay, this is the beginning. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we'll keep it.
Or we should just, let's keep the beginning, but have a beep going all over all of it.
Yeah.
Beep.
No, we'll keep it. I think people will be excited to see our warm up. They want to see.
Our warm up, do they?
I don't know.
Do they?
I don't
Even
know.
if well, we just did a warm up that makes people sad, and now they're going to be sad.
To be fair, no one really gives us feedback, so we really have no idea if we're doing a good or bad job. It's this is actually what was like making art like before the 20th century. You just throw it out, and if you were lucky, a guy from like another country would write you a letter at some point. Like, I don't agree with you.
It is bad.
Yeah, he's like, hi, Mr. Newton. Interesting theory. I don't agree. Well, have a good day. No.
Well,
Yeah, that's all I had to say.
that's so funny.
Crazy, yeah.
I just realized that when people say there's a God, it's obvious, and you're like, okay, but what caused God? They're like, what causes gravity? We know that's here. So if it's obvious to them, there's nothing you can say.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Like
Yeah,
there,
it's such a hard thing to say because it's like you could just say God created all the laws of science, but then it's like
yeah,
okay, well then what way that? Like I don't know. It's
I know, man.
it's all very
And then we're like, why do you call it? Why is it God though? Why do you call it God? Why is it that?
yeah.
And I was like, well, why do you call it gravity? I was like, okay,
Well, because we made that word to describe something.
yeah. And they're like, so did we. We
That
made
is
that word up to
that's
this.
so. Oh god. Yeah, I'm not even sure how to. I'm not even sure what my next move would be. It's like a checkmate for everything. Like you just
I
get.
know,
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, it's just I like playing God's advocate sometimes.
No, I was gonna say it's very hard to prove either because you could just explain the other one with the other one. You could be like, well, God is just a creation of or it could be like, no, science is a creation of God, and just keep looping and looping. Like, there's no way to know
Yeah,
which one. Yeah,
yeah. It's a looper. I
yeah.
was thinking about how people talk about how a lot of Christians aren't socialists, but Christ was clearly a socialist.
Oh yeah, of course.
And
Like
yeah,
Jesus was a yeah.
yeah, Christ.
All right.
That Christ.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
that
Oh,
Christ, Arash.
Jesus Christ. Yeah.
Do you mean Andrew Christ?
Andrew, Brian, is it
Reese Christ?
Reese?
um, yeah, but I was thinking about it, and it makes sense because Christianity is founded on the belief that human beings are by nature terrible,
Yeah, right.
and so is you know non-socialism.
Honestly, it kind of makes sense why like the Old Testament God is so brutal because he knows we're just not capable of learning anything. He's like,
Yeah,
all right, well, Sodom and Gomorrah, I'll just kill all of you because I did. You're not gonna learn. Like, what are you gonna reform
yeah.
Gomorrah, Sodom? You can't reform that place. What do you do? Like, roll out like a 10-year plan to like unsodomize the city?
On
Like,
Sodom.
it's not possible. What are you gonna do? Like,
Yeah,
pave the streets, like clean it up, ban prostitution? I'm not gonna go with that. They're not gonna do that.
I think
Yeah,
it's probably like God was just paying a lot of attention at the very beginning,
yeah.
like producers on a new TV show. But
That's sort of how I always thought.
yeah,
Yeah.
once it's a hit, he can kind of sit back and he can let it go. But
Because it says something that he came back like 1,000 years later, which is like seasons have gone by. He's like, all right, I'll give it another pass. And he's like, this is not working. This is,
God is Lorne Michaels.
yeah,
He left SNL and came back,
yeah. And
but
people still
now,
swear SNL is good, even though it hasn't been funny in like decades.
God
You know,
damn.
and they're like, no, it was so great. Like, yeah, in like 1970, it was good. But no, 1990,
Yeah, man,
yeah.
it's so
And I
funny.
know it's gonna come back. Like, it's not coming back. It's done. It's done.
It's super done. I just young people are awful.
Seriously.
That's their problem is they keep hiring young people. So
I know.
I think the show has always sucked. I've never
I hate
liked
that
it.
for any show. Like I think I forgot who was telling me that they had this great point where like there was a time when like Game of Thrones people actually sounded like they were in medieval times. Like they'd be like, "Oh, hello, my lord." But then it like you can tell when they started hiring like 19-year-olds to write the script because then they're like, "Oh my god, this Westeros is lit," and like it's just
Westeros is
yeah. But
lit.
they all like stopped talking in like an old timey way. It was
Yeah.
really jarring. I don't know. Yeah.
Somebody told me George R. Martin wrote some of the Twilight Zone episodes, the old ones.
Oh, I forgot how old he is. That's crazy.
Yeah, he's an old fucker.
Insane. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah.
Well, I'm going to talk about Thomas Paine today, but first I'm going to tell you the people I really wanted to talk about but could not categorize as historical.
Oh, okay.
I really want to talk about Richard Harris, and I really want to talk about what's his name? I'll think of it.
Wait, Richard
But
Harris? I'm not familiar with Richard Harris.
he's the first Dumbledore actor.
Oh, poor guy. Yeah, the guy. He died between like 3 and 4, or 4 and 5, or something. I don't know.
What?
Did he
What?
die
Oh yeah,
between like Harry Potter's 4 and 5, or
I think he died between 1 and 2.
oh, he was that old? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, or maybe 2 and 3. I don't even think he was in Chamber of Secrets.
Okay, no, poor guy because he was gets overlooked because I think in my head I always meshed like Dumbledore, Gandalf, and Count Dooku and Saruman are all kind of the same person in my head.
Yeah,
Very yeah, and Patrick Stewart. They're all like the same guy.
that's true.
Yeah.
Um, he is. If you see Richard Harris in interviews, I'm just gonna say this: he's not what you expect. He's the crazy. There's an interview with him as an 80-year-old man, and he's the craziest, most fun,
Oh hell yeah!
charming man.
So he
And
doesn't
he's
get a
just
shit he's in Harry Potter. He's like, fuck
yeah.
yeah.
But he is apparently the original Irish drunk movie star.
Ah.
And he has all these stories about going out with the great O'Toole, he called Peter O'Toole. And they just would drink and drink. And then he was on Letterman in this overcoat. And then it was like a flimsy sort of overcoat. And Letterman says, I like this jacket. Like, oh, there's a great story to this jacket. And then Letterman's like, oh, okay, go ahead and tell us. He's like, so there's this young woman, famous actress. I'm not going to say her name. And I've been wanting to sleep with her for ages, Dave.
What a
And
dog.
yeah, I sent her flowers all day, every day for months. And then finally I saw that her light turned on one day, so I climbed up to her window and I just tapped on it without looking. And she opened it up and I said, can I come in? And she said, yeah, all right. And then so we had a good shag. And then he says, and afterwards I said, I want to marry you. I love you so much. And she said, no, this was a one-off, mate.
Oh my god, that's
And then
hilarious.
so what I did was I wrapped the sheets around myself and I said, all right, I'll never see you again. And I went and had him made into an overcoat. These are the sheets, Dave.
That's amazing. What a salty dog. I love that. It's
So,
nothing better than like a weird Irish guy just unprovoked telling you a story.
I know, and he tells them so well.
Yeah, we shagged.
There was one where he said, so my father we had these flour mill and he gave me a truck to go to Dublin and get some flour and or some wheat or something like that. And then I was driving back, and so I got drunk along the way, and I was driving really slow and realized I was going to be late and he'd kill me. So I took a detour, and it's dangerous taking detours in Ireland because they have these skinny roads. So I went through and I came to this bridge when I was about an hour on the detour, and it said 15 feet. Now I knew intellectually that the truck was 22 feet. But I thought if I could get it going really good, I could trick the bridge into. So I went, and it was okay for a little bit, and then it went. I was stuck in the middle of this bridge, and the policeman rides up on his bicycle and says, he asked me the stupidest question. He says, "Is there a problem?" And I said, "Yes, there is. I need to deliver this bridge and I've lost the address."
That's great.
Yeah.
God, it's a lost art of being a drunk Irish bastard. That's great. I love that. Also, it's like you really don't know if anything he says is real or not. He just talks about like shagging actresses and bridges. And you're like, is this all like a metaphor or like?
Yeah.
What is it?
There's one with him like a long time ago on the Dick Cavett show talking about just telling a story, and he like stops himself and said, "That was a lie." And he's like, I'm a born liar. And then he keeps going. So then I watch later ones, and I think as an old man, he just gives up telling you it's a lie.
Oh man, wait. So he was in Harry Potter. Then before that, it was just a bunch of like British movies.
He was in a lot of hits. There was the movie Camelot. He was in. It was a big hit. That's what made him famous. He's been in tons of things. He was in kind of.
No, speaking of Camelot, I've seen some like pretty bad sword and sorcery movies from like the 80s, where it's just like really vaguely medieval and they're really bad.
Yeah.
They're so good.
I love that. I want to see some of those. I don't get to watch enough trash or read enough trash.
Oh man, yeah. Like in college, I was taking this like medieval literature like in film class. So we would like read some medieval book and then like watch the movie. But the movie would always be this like shitty ass like 70s thing with like plastic swords. It'd be about like Sir Gawain and the Green Knight or something. Like vaguely. It was. There's also so many Beowulf. There's so many Beowulf movies.
Are there?
Yeah, Beowulf's not even like the best fable, I think.
No.
Way better fables.
It's just the oldest one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just like famous as but translating. It has like it's like old English and stuff, but it's like nice. I don't know. It's pretty. Yeah.
um, there was a story about so Camelot was a play before it was a movie,
Oh yeah.
and Richard Harris was coming on stage for it, and he was super drunk, and then he couldn't remember his next line, so he just like improvised it, and it was super informal sounding. And he's this great actor, and then the lady who played Guinevere was like, just asked him a question. He says, "I don't know. Is that why you're cheating on me?" he said he said it killed.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I know. Just on stage, you couldn't stop him.
Is that why you're cheating? I think it just derails the entire play just for a joke.
I
That's so great.
know.
And it killed.
And then you see him in Harry Potter, and he's all, "Fox is a phoenix, Harry." And
Yeah, like it's like that they robbed him of all his like real talent.
I don't know. He does a good job in that, but he
He
realized he
is. Oh,
couldn't
it's
be
been I haven't
himself
seen it
for
forever.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so funny. He just realized he couldn't be himself. He's in a ton of stuff. He's in Gladiator.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh.
he's the emperor that dies at the beginning. Their
Oh, wait,
dad.
wait, wait. Yeah, Richard Harris. I will know exactly who he is when it. Yes.
Yep.
Oh, dude,
He's
this
in.
guy's been in everything. This is.
Yeah, no, he's red.
Oh man. Oh, especially his younger self. You can tell he's just drinking like every day.
Yeah. And
Holy
there,
shit.
he's on Dick Cavett's show with a big scar on his face and on his nose from getting in a fight the night before. He's just so funny.
Oh yeah,
Um,
dude.
yeah, that's what I really wanted to talk about, but that's it. That's all.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Wait, I see him with a scar. Yeah,
Yeah,
he looks like a fucking like a '60s like San Francisco dweller.
he does.
He's like a cape on in this. What is he doing?
He said something interesting. He was talking about how the World War II era was so upsetting that for the generation of the 60s, their attitude was, we have to make life as fun as it can be because we're going to die tomorrow, literally.
Right.
Yeah. And
It's funny
then,
because that hasn't really set in for us because like millennials have nothing, but we're not even fun about it. We're just like,
no, we're
yeah,
not. And then he said in the 60s, we had all this sex and booze and it was great.
yeah.
And then he stopped drinking for a health problem. And then he said, those were the most boring years of my life. He said, I wanted to be able to remember what I did the night before because I heard all these great stories from other people. Oh, I'm going to tell one more. I'm sorry. So
No, go ahead.
he was talking about getting married. He was asked what kind of trouble his drinking got him in, and he was talking about getting married. He said, "You're great at yawning with your mouth closed."
Oh yeah. Keep those germs in. Yeah,
That was
this is I think
fantastic.
a thing of politeness. I can't just be like yawning
Yeah, I have to
openly.
wipe my screen off now.
Yeah.
But so he was talking about getting married, and he said, "So I married my first wife, Elizabeth, and then I just told her I'm going to go out for the newspaper, and I went out and got it, and I saw there were some races going on in Dublin, some horse races. So I decided I'd go, and I forgot to tell her." And he said, and then I was gone for 5 weeks. And then my brother called me, and they were newlyweds apparently. So my brother called me. He said, "Elizabeth's going to divorce you, mate." He's like, "No, she loves me." And he's like, "No, she's going to divorce you." So I hurried. I got on the plane. I went back there, and then I
Yeah,
landed
what
in
is he playing? Like where did he go? I don't
I
understand.
don't. It was like London, I think. I don't know,
Oh god.
but or Dublin, and he was just far away or something. But it's usually happening in Dublin, and he flies back, and he gets to the driveway, and he's like walking. What am I going to say? What am I going to say? And then walks in, and then he's like, and she doesn't say anything. She just stares at me with the one hand on her hips, and I'm just trying to think fast. What am I going to say? What am I going to say? And then eventually, when I got up to her, had to think fast. I said, "Why didn't you pay the fucking ransom?"
Oh god. Dude, what a fucking hilarious guy.
I
So
know.
funny.
That's so funny.
Fucking runs. It's like, how do you hate that guy? He's just so lovable. He's like,
I know.
yeah.
And
Can't
they got
divorce
it,
him. He's hilarious.
and they got a divorce. Well, this was when he was like 70 or 60, and he was at some talk show. And then he said, "And she's in the audience right now." And then And then they said, "You stayed together." He's like, "No, we divorced, but we're good friends. We're great friends."
Because it's probably a nightmare having to actually be married to him, but
Yeah.
it's probably okay. Also, wait, I'm gonna share my screen because this Dick Cavett show is really funny. Did you see this?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just oh my god.
Look at him.
Like what is on his? He's like in like a weird green. Also, like I just don't get like back in the day. Like this is a late night show. This is like entertainment. It's just
Yeah.
like Dick Cavett with like an old woman next to him, and then him, and it's part of having the most like dry conversation.
Well, that lady's also a great actress.
Oh, is she okay? Yeah, she's
I
like.
can't remember her name, but she's been in a lot of shit.
It was so
Oh,
like casual. Like, there's no like like it's such a small production.
well, Dick Cavett's show never took off because they were too focused on discussing ideas.
Yeah, no, it's just one of those shows where they just like have like an ashtray. They just like smoke for like 5 hours.
Yeah, there
Crazy.
he was trying to blend like Carson comedy talk shows with the serious talk shows of the
Oh,
time and
that's
have a
nuts.
funny show that could talk about issues.
Ah,
And
okay.
and then now he's more revered by intellectuals than Carson was, but he also was poor as shit.
well, so it goes to show that like people who are really original and taken, are very forward thinking are not rewarded, and yeah,
No.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then
You will
they
die in
died.
poverty, actually. So
He's he's still alive and he's still funny as fuck. He was on uh he was on Gilbert Gottfried's podcast a few times.
Gilbert Gottfried is a podcast.
Yeah, and
That's
it's great.
crazy.
It's so
Jesus
good.
Christ. I just feel like
Yeah,
that shouldn't be allowed. Just 'cause
I know.
yeah, that's insane. Is it just called
Oh,
like cunt or something? Or like what is yeah.
it's called Gilbert Gottfried's Mega Amazing Awesome It's something like that.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay.
Welcome to my amazing Mega Awesome podcast.
Yeah.
It's something. And then, but yeah, Dick Cavett's really funny on that.
Oh man.
I'm thinking about hiring a cameo. You know how Gilbert Gottfried does the cameos?
Oh yeah.
He costs 150. So I'm thinking about paying him $150 to tell my parents I'm gay.
Yeah. Yeah. Hello, Mr. and Mrs. Bainey. Your son loves the taste of cum.
This is a message from your son, Max Paine. Mom and Dad, I am gay. What I really love is when a man comes up behind me and shoves his cock in my ass.
Dude, you're amazing at this. Jeez.
I've thought about it so much.
You're really good at Gilbert Gottfried's voice. Wow. Damn, dude. Dude, well, I was gonna say like going off the Richard Harris thing, like I kind of have this big affinity for those like old actors, where like they were half actor, just half maniac. Like I don't know, like because I was watching some old westerns, and I fucking love what's his face, Lee Van Cleef. So he was in World War II, and like like
The
for
nose
him,
guy.
yes, yeah, he literally looks like a hawk. Like he has like a hawk's facial features. Like he's this like insane sharp nose, like very sharp features. He's like a big, tall, slender man. But like back then, like they kind of considered that like very hideous and ugly and like evil. So he was
Yeah.
just playing these like shitty villains on TV. But then like it was crazy because he was like a huge alcoholic. He cut off his finger by accident, like making a dollhouse for his kid. And then, and then and then Sergio Leone found him and like made him a star. But he was like, he's like the roughest life. Like
That's so funny.
people just had like really rough lives because like people just weren't like 19 and famous. They would go to the army, get like traumatized in World War II or Korea. Then they would try working at like a car salesman place. Then they would get divorced. Then they would drink. Then they would become actors and stuff.
Yeah.
So like
So
super way down the line. Like it was not a
yeah, Richard Harris was asked how he became an actor, and he said, "Well, I come from a wealthy family. We own all of these flour mills, and I couldn't do anything. I got kicked out of school before I finished, so my dad just put me to work in one of his mills. And I decided we all weren't being paid enough, so I got all the other employees to go on strike against my father."
Once again, I can't tell if anything he says is credible. I don't know what
I know.
he's insane.
He's like, and then I knew he was going to kill me, so I just left on a boat and became an actor.
I left on a boat.
Yeah, he got on a
Honestly,
boat.
it's the same thing with James Joyce. Like when Irish people tell stories, it just goes in like a weird like spiral, and you have no idea what it's like. Yeah, like you're like why is there a boat? Like why is there?
Well, I've been differentiating between like Catholic comedy and like Jewish comedy
Oh
right
yes,
now, because a lot of Catholic comedy is trying to escape hell. It's just trying to be as goofy as possible,
yeah.
a lot of it, and then a lot of Jewish comedy is able to stay kind of with death and
It's interesting though because both of them have like a ton of shame and despair, but it's different
yeah,
direction. Yeah,
it is
like
different.
because all Jewish people and Catholic people are all like just whipping themselves constantly.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
But
love doing that.
they're able to stay with the actual issue though. A lot of Jewish humor.
Mhm.
So like you'll find a lot of Jewish humor is about death and about poverty and about
Yeah,
the pain, and then Catholic humor is trying to escape it at all costs. They're just like trying to get
yeah.
as far from it as possible.
Oh, and Jews have mastered like laughing at your own oppression. You know that's a big
Yeah.
yeah. Because I remember actually like there was some crazy shit where like I guess in like concentration camps there'd be like people telling jokes about it like in camps because it's
Yeah,
just like you had to have some kind of levity, which is
probably
crazy.
great
Like
jokes.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's insane.
Jerry,
Yeah.
Have you heard Jessica Kerson's joke about the after the shooting at that synagogue?
Oh, I think you told us last time.
Oh my God. Did I say it on the podcast last time?
Yes, I think so.
Did I?
Yeah,
Oh, I don't think
we
so.
do love her though. She's a good yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, she's fantastic. I won't tell it then. You can go back and listen to the other one.
Yeah.
Um, but Jerry Seinfeld was talking about how there is a reason. I can't do Jerry Seinfeld's voice, but I'll try. It's like, there's a reason that LA is not as funny as New York. It's it's because they're on a beach down there. You
Oh,
can't
for
be funny
sure.
on a beach.
Yeah, of course. Oh, I totally agree with that.
He said if there were comedy in Tahiti, there would nothing funny would come out of that ever.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's the whole thing. It's like it's literally this. It's the same concept. It's like Catholics and Jews are funny because they're all live in cold, desolate places.
Yeah,
They're all poor and destitute and like dying at 50 from high blood pressure and shit. Yeah, like that's
they've
makes it
got
really
some
funny.
pain.
Yeah.
They've got some pain to get over.
Yeah, exactly.
Some real pain.
Yeah.
And then you've got you've got fucking German comedy, and they're like, it's the climate is pretty nice.
Yeah.
The infrastructure is well taken care of.
Yeah, it's like I'm sorry, but like no Dutch merchant is gonna make me laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not gonna be. Yeah.
There are a couple good Danish comedians.
Oh
No, the only one I know of is Hans Theeuwen, and he's only sometimes funny, I think, but he's like passable.
no,
And then
yeah, I totally agree though. Like everybody in LA has that same vibe where it's like you're not in pain at all. Like
I know,
yeah,
and then they're just too free to be themselves. They're out in like a morph suit on a bicycle.
yeah. I gotta say, like I gotta hand it to religion for at least giving people some sense of hubris. You know, like
Yeah,
I kind of admire the people who think God is gonna strike them down because it makes them kind of like scared all the time, and I think it makes you a better person.
it does.
Because people who think they're not going to be struck down are just flagrant,
Hmm.
unless you have so much self-discipline that you can. But most
Yeah,
people don't.
this is another thing Jerry Seinfeld said. He said there need to be rules. That's what makes a game fun. So
Right?
you see all these kids who are just able to do whatever they want, and they're fucking miserable because they don't have any rules in their life. It's playing
Yeah.
within rules that makes things fun. They're the kids that get games and upload cheats immediately. They just start
Yeah.
cheating on the game immediately. They're like, what? I can't win right now.
I feel like I feel like there is or should be some kind of like idiom where it's like a silver spoon doesn't taste as good. I don't know, something like that. I'm gonna invent it right now. Food doesn't taste as good from a silver spoon. Tell you that
Yeah,
much.
a silver. I'll try. I'll give it a go. A
Yeah.
silver spoon makes the food taste like silver.
And
It's
not shit. Yeah.
and not what it would have tasted like if you had used maybe an iron or steel spoon.
Or wooden spoon.
Or wooden spoon.
Yeah,
That's my
iron
saying.
spoon. Yeah.
That's my proverb I made up.
That's your No, I want that entire quote on like a giant plaque. Like,
On your wall in just like nice cursive.
yeah, a silver spoon, it won't taste as good as a iron, stainless steel, bronze, copper.
And then a new paragraph.
Yeah,
You
new
name it!
pen.
Exclamation point. You name it.
Yeah, and someone's like, "Oh man, that baby quote has really helped me through life." Yeah,
And then new paragraph. Golden spoons taste fine but bend.
yeah,
You cannot eat ice cream with a golden spoon. It will bend.
yeah. It will cause erosion or corrosion. Yeah.
Will cause erosion. Okay, Thomas Paine.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Oh
Thomas Paine.
God, we've talked for maybe 30 minutes without talking about Thomas Paine.
That was great.
Yeah, it was rough.
Wait, so
But
Thomas Paine is the Utopia guy?
I
Well, we've already said this before. Who's
just
that?
that's Thomas More.
Thomas More. Oh, okay.
Yeah, Thomas More wrote Utopia. He also had a hand in torturing people back in the day.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, we'll talk about him another time. But he liked to torture folks
It
sometimes.
was Thomas Paine the modest proposal guy?
No, but
No.
also a good guess. That was Jonathan Swift.
Shit. Okay. I'm fucking up all the
This is
1800s guys.
I think this is more fun actually. Give it another guess.
I don't know. Okay. Well,
I'll give you a hint. Not 1800s or not till way later.
okay. Thomas Paine. Did he do like a philosophical thing, like
You're close.
a democracy kind of paper where he
Ah, ah, ah.
shit. I don't know. Fuck, I don't know. The Articles of Confederation. I don't know. I don't know.
Oh my goodness, you're so close.
Fuck.
I'll give you a misleading hint.
Okay.
This is true, but it'll mislead you as to what he's done.
Okay.
He's an Englishman.
Oh. Okay. Shit. Thomas Paine.
He
Fuck.
died 1809, it looks like.
Oh, okay. Thomas Paine, 1809, Englishman.
I'll give you another pointless hint. He was married to both Elizabeth Olive until 1774 and Mary Lambert until 1760.
Okay. You know what? No,
That's not going to help you, but I thought I
don't
would
have
just
it.
say
Thomas
it.
Paine. Damn it. No. So Thomas Paine did what?
He wrote the seminal document, the seminal treatise that sparked the American Revolution.
Which
Common
is
Sense.
Oh yeah, Common Sense. Oh, I wouldn't have gotten that. Of course, Common Sense. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, he wrote Common Sense. He got all mad one day, and then he wrote Common Sense, and then everybody in the fucking United States, or what was to become the United States, read it, and they were like, God damn, he's right. And
Right,
then
because it was kind of like him, like John Locke, like those guys. Everyone's like, oh, these guys have got us some good points.
Well, yeah, he read a lot of Locke, and he took after Locke's ideas, and he was an influencer back in the day.
Influence. He had a lot of followers. He was.
Yeah, he probably just vomited in his grave. He probably just vomited shit in his grave when I said that.
Yeah.
But
we should open OnlyFans for dead people. We just keep them getting fans, you know. It's like Anne Frank's OnlyFans. I bet people would like that.
Oh my god. Oh no.
I've noticed people keep bringing up Anne Frank in like the most inappropriate ways. Everyone's like, you know, Anne Frank stayed in her house for a long time. You can do it too. It's like, I don't think we should like step on her name like that. You know, it's not poor Anne.
That's so stupid.
Yeah.
If they did that in earnest, that's stupid. If they joked about it, a little less stupid, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, man. Anyway, sorry, tangents. So
yeah, so he wrote Common Sense, and then he was one of the people who he probably sort of bottlenecked the move into simpler prose in all writing.
Oh, I see.
His prose is often set against Edmund Burke's because Edmund Burke wrote for the elite classes.
But he was writing for like the common man, just.
Yeah, he was.
Interesting.
And it was kind of a Caesar-like trajectory as far as his writing went, because like Caesar went way to the Gallic Wars and then, exaggerated his triumphs in simple prose so that it could be declaimed to the common man.
That's very
Um,
smart. It's funny because like it's good to be talking to like not just the elite, but it's not good if you're just doing it to like grab power. It's I guess
right.
yeah.
And that was the only reason either Caesar or Thomas Paine did it, was not for power in Thomas Paine's case, but just to propagandize the coming revolution,
That's kind of cool
basically.
because people, I feel like propaganda. People hear that word and they think it's bad. But like, there is good and bad propaganda. Like,
Yeah.
making it like with the intention of people changing their minds. That's like a big, yeah.
And then this can open up some discussion, because you have the opposing ideas of George Orwell and James Joyce here, where George Orwell thought that all art was propaganda, so all art's trying to get you to do something. And then James Joyce put propaganda in its own category, which he actually called pornography, which he thought that pornographic art was some art that made you want to do something or try to do something.
Oh, I see. So it's like evoking.
Mhm.
Oh, interesting. Wait, so why was pornography applied to like porn? Is it just because
Um,
it's like erotic, so it's making you feel erotic feelings, or I don't
I
know.
don't I don't really know the etymology of pornography, but it has something to do with the lack of emotion, just kind of trash.
Oh, this is like hedonistic kind of.
Yeah,
Oh, okay, so a pornograph is just like
yeah, like
some
it. It,
okay, some
it
pulp.
has.
Yeah, it's some pulpy shit.
Mhm. In the old definition, I think you could say that anything that's just made purely for the entertainment of the demotic classes, like could
I'm,
would be pornography.
I'm literally imagining like a bunch of people like just wallowing in like pig shit in the street, just like I don't know. Then those are people who enjoy porn. Yeah,
Right. Also,
Ju-
so
yeah.
if you showed Friends to James Joyce, he would think that would be pornography. If that, so that's what he meant.
That's hilarious. It's like this
Yeah.
is baseless porn. Yeah,
hmm Yeah.
interesting.
I guess that's not quite what he meant. I'm probably mixing
No, it
mixing
makes
up
sense.
what
It's
he
like
said.
shit that it has no real value beyond just like a cheap,
Yeah.
impulse. Yeah, okay, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
it's just trying to make you feel a certain way. In that
Uh,
case, comfortable. You just need to feel comfort, so you turn on these familiar characters, and
that's actually pretty appropriate. I think that makes sense.
Mhm. Which is why TV shows are more rewatchable than a lot of other media or a
Mm.
lot of other art forms, because people end up keeping watching them because they're just so familiar with the characters.
Oh, that's funny. So it's almost like a simulation. It's like I want the feeling of having friends, so I just are gonna watch some Friends. Like that's literally
Exactly.
that is weird.
It is really weird, but it's what human beings have strived for a long time, and we
Yeah, I mean it's
finally
almost
got
like
it.
like seeing a play in a Greek amphitheater. That's probably the same thing. Like yeah, I relate
Mhm.
to this story and like yeah,
Yeah,
weird.
and they that was still the elite classes back when education wasn't widespread at all. They were discussing ideas and deep things because that's what you had to do to set yourself apart from the Punch and Judy shows people were watching.
Wait,
And
okay. So is Common Sense like a book? Is it like an essay or is it like a story? Like
it's a long essay. It's a kind of an essay, and it's a pamphlet.
oh, okay,
And
nice. He really
yeah,
made this like accessible. He's like all right.
he did.
So,
And then just about everyone in America either had it read to them, yelled at them, or had read it themselves.
oh yeah.
And
Oh
then
man,
he
slaves
was
must have been just mad though, because they're
well,
like,
he
hey, what are
was
you guys
a
reading? They're like, shut up. And
yeah,
I'm
he
like,
was he was a big abolitionist too.
oh
He
hell
was
yeah, okay, cool.
I think he's one of the only founding fathers who was a true abolitionist, didn't keep slaves, was against the trading of them and the keeping of
Nice.
them at just in any sense. And he was also the best writer of all the founding
Oh,
fathers.
okay,
So
so he was just shitting on Jefferson then. Jefferson didn't do shit compared to this guy.
no, well,
Yeah.
Jefferson wrote some great sketches of people at the time, like Jefferson. That's what Those are the writings of Jefferson's I like. His
Yeah.
autobiography, for some reason, just sucked plain ass. But his writing was pretty good sometimes. Like he has a sketch of Benjamin Franklin. You can read what he thought of him. He describes his visage and his character, and
Yeah.
that's really fun to read.
He was
But
like Ben
Thomas,
Franklin. Um, Words can't describe how fat he is because there'd be too many words. Yeah,
oh
yeah.
no!
What a fat fuck with his stupid kite.
I like thinking of people in the drawing rooms of an Enlightenment society, and
Yeah,
they're like supposed to be saying witty things, but we're seeing what it was really like, and they're just like, "Well, you can't describe how fat he is because that'd be too many words."
yeah,
They're just goofing.
yeah. They're like, man, like how many kites would it take to lift him off the ground, huh?
Yeah.
Oh man, what a fat ass. Yeah.
That's so funny. Yeah. Um,
You should use that electricity to burn some calories, I think.
oh my goodness. Yeah, it's like Jim Norton as Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah, he's just a worm
He should
looking.
use some of his fucking electricity to burn some calories, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Opie and Anthony is a
Just Opie and Anthony in the shock jocks of like
yeah,
1790. Yeah.
as Burke and Paine.
Burke.
And then, so yeah, Edmund Burke and Thomas Paine had a little bit of a rivalry. That mostly happened during they were pretty good friends until the French Revolution, where they started to differ.
Mm.
But yeah, Edmund Burke, beautiful writer, by the way, amazing writer. But the prose in his book, Reflections on the Revolution in France, is the most difficult prose I think I've read.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, all right. I had read it a long time ago, and that's what I was thinking. And I haven't read anything as difficult since, I don't think. For my mental state at the time, I must have been like 20 when I read it. But at that time, I had a shit ton of trouble getting through that book.
Damn.
To such an extent that I was having such a time working out the sentences that I gleaned so little of it.
Which
Um,
if reading this so hard for us, people back then just must have been like, well, I don't know what happened in France because yeah, yeah,
yeah.
made it too hard.
I don't know what happened in France.
Yeah,
Um,
I would if he didn't prose it the fuck up.
This
Yeah.
is also kind of funny. So, Reflection on the Revolution in France was written because Edmund Burke got a letter from like a young man asking him, "What is with the revolution in France?"
Oh, so he was
And
just
it's
like
like,
replying to like a fan, just like, all right, I'll
yeah,
drop this on you. Yeah.
but that reply was 217 words long, pages long. So he that became its own book. And then so apparently he like wrote the whole thing really fast, and then like made copies of it and sealed it up and sent it to this kid. So we got this huge fucking manuscript for it.
It's like, oh wow, okay, all right. Yeah,
Jesus.
I don't care that much. Yeah, it's like,
Yeah. And
yeah,
then it came out as its own book, but it has some great quotations. Like he was describing Marie Antoinette after she got her head cut off, and then
oh,
um, he was, and he got a lot of shit for this in some circles, but he said he was just talking about how shouldn't have been killed because she was so kind and beautiful, and that was
oh yeah.
basically it. And he's like, if any man who saw her would gladly spring his sword from his scabbard to defend such a beauty,
Mm.
and
No, but the French just killed her anyway.
yeah, and he just wanted to fuck her really bad.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
No,
super
it
bad.
kind of reminds me of like that Blackadder where they go to France, like during the Revolution, and like the French Revolution's like really big, like fad in England. Do you remember that Blackadder episode
No.
where everyone's like eating croissants, like speaking French, like he like hates it, and he like goes to France, and he's just like ignoring the entire revolution. It's like really funny. Yeah,
I want to see that.
yeah.
That
It's just Rowan Atkinson like just not amused at all. It's like really funny.
I love that. Yeah, so Thomas Paine wrote Common Sense, got everyone riled up. It inspired them to declare independence.
Damn. Okay.
So I don't know why they had fucking Jefferson write the Declaration and not Paine.
Thomas. Oh, okay.
I know why they didn't have Franklin write it, because they were afraid he'd put fucking jokes inside. That's true.
He's like what do you call like Philip? Not filibustering. When you like like
Yeah.
what do they call it in Congress when you like sneak in a bill randomly into
I
like
don't know.
yeah
I don't know. Yeah,
like
but
dog earring whatever it is when you're like
yeah,
yeah
but he would have done that with a joke or two.
that's so
Um,
funny
he was such a funny man. We'll talk about him another time.
yeah
Another time.
he's like no more taxes no more sales tax no more food tax no more Ben Franklin has a giant dick tax anyway yeah they're like God damn it Franklin yeah
Yeah, they keep having readings in front of the
yeah.
whole in front of all the representatives, and then just they're like Abraham Benjamin Franklin's just like,
Dude, he really has that face though, because on the dollar bill, that's what his face looks like. It looks like he's about to laugh, like he's like
yeah, he was
yeah,
such
like
a
he's like about to start bursting out laughing. He's just like yeah,
I know
he
he
just has this like
was
really smug smile.
he was such a mischievous guy. He just wanted to have fun all the time. He's
Love that.
he was kind of the spirit of the '60s back then because he fucked all the time, and
Really?
yeah
Man, and he was just like a bald, fat, weird guy.
yeah.
Good for him.
And then, but he was super intelligent, which people found hotter back then than they do
Oh
today.
yeah, dude, he was. I mean, fat. I mean, and he was enormous.
Yeah, he was.
And it was very hard to be a fat man back then. You really had to work at it.
Yeah.
Oh, he
But he enjoyed himself, he liked to eat and
yeah. Honestly, maybe taxes would be good. He would eat less. This guy is
yeah.
just.
He wrote it in
Oh.
his autobiography about like not eating meat, and then he started eating meat again because he saw a fish cut open and there were little fishes inside. He's like, well, if a fish can do it. And he just started eating meat again forever.
That's such a great argument. Yeah, it's like other animals do
I
it.
know. He's
Like,
just the fish can do it.
if
I've
the
been
fish,
reading I've been reading the Bible, by the way,
oh hell
and
yeah.
there are like a couple passages saying like people who eat meat or who don't eat meat are weak and stuff like that.
I love that. Like, yeah, it's like God. He's like, people will never be swole if you go
Yeah.
vegan. Yeah,
People
you're
will
a low
never be.
testosterone male. That's what
I
you.
know. I love it. I think it might even be quoting somebody because it says something like there are people who say to eat meat is good, to eat only vegetables is weak or something. I think it's
It's
like
funny because in the Quran, like, it's funny because like in Islam, like people don't eat pork, but not for like any because back then, like it was like really disease prone because there were like worms and shit in pigs back then. So like, yeah, it was just like, all right, just don't eat pork because he was going to get worms. So
yeah,
yeah, it was
no
just
kidding.
God watching out for you. Like, all right, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, pretty much every religion advised against it. Christianity
yeah,
did.
exactly.
Well, maybe I guess the Old Testament did, and Christianity sort of was supposed to pick that up.
And
But
pork is pretty bad for you. Like, it's not amazing. Yeah,
and also it's very close to human.
yeah. Oh, I know. Yeah. Like on
It-
MythBusters, they always use a pig as like the human thing for like
Yeah,
testing ballistics and shit. Yeah.
yeah, and they cut like cannibalistic societies. Their word for like a lot of them, their word for human is long pork.
Whoa. Well, and cannibals would know. So yeah.
Yeah, they got some human meat and I keep posting about being a cannibal and nobody likes those things, but I really like them because I was like, what's the evolutionary advantage of humans being so delicious?
I
Everyone hated it,
sort of
which
do
is
wonder
funny.
if there was like a high IQ thing to be a cannibal. Maybe it helps.
Maybe,
Maybe it's like really
perhaps,
good for you. Yeah.
yeah, maybe Hannibal Lecter got the ability to make his mind palace after eating a human thigh or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
he is very smart.
Yes. So, American Revolution happens. Thomas Paine writes the Crisis Papers, which are just kind of a serialized commentary
Okay.
on the revolution while it's happening. Those are amazing too. Those are great.
Oh, so it's
Um,
kind of chronicling like the events. Interesting.
mhm.
Wait, so
Yeah.
he was an Englishman, but he was living in America. So he was like a pretty much an American.
Yeah, so he
Oh,
was he lived in England. He was a corset maker or a stay maker out there. Moved to America worked at a printing press, I think, for a while. And then he just started getting angry and writing pamphlets all day.
Damn.
And he was a real drunk, and he liked to hit his wife. And so, not
Well,
such a good guy.
well, he's not called Thomas Paine for nothing, is he?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'll show you the meaning of pain.
Yeah. Common sense. I'll show you common sense. Shit.
Oh no.
Thomas, no.
There's gonna be a real age of reason
Oh no.
in this house.
Oh God. Marie Antoinette is 10 times the woman you are. Yeah.
Oh my God, no.
Oh God.
It's so funny. There's gonna be
Poor
weird.
Mrs. Paine, dude. Yeah.
So yeah, he wrote a book called Age of Reason, but we'll talk about that in a second. Yeah, so he wrote that. The Crisis Papers, American Revolution happens. It dies out. At some point, Thomas Jefferson decides to purchase the Louisiana territories from France.
Yeah.
France was poor as shit, and they were
right,
okay.
Because fucking Napoleon wanted to get money for the wars. Yeah.
Right, he was running out of money because of the wars. And then, so Thomas Paine went to Jefferson. He's like, no slaves in the acquired ports. Just don't put slaves there. And then Jefferson was like, okay. And then just didn't.
Oh.
And then just didn't outlaw slavery in the acquired ports. He was just like, sure, I'll outlaw slavery there. Sure. And then just did not.
Oh, so he did allow slaves.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shit. Yeah, it's weird because like, people have that weird mindset where they were like, well, we had to like phase it out or like you can't. Yeah, it was very weird.
Yeah, it is weird. And then, Thomas Jefferson was one of those people. He said, sure, slavery should be abolished, but we should make them leave. He thought that. And then, so Thomas Paine was really mad about that. And then he just went off to the French Revolution to help that out. Oh. Then he got them all riled up too, and that happens. And he was he lobbied for the life of the royals. He said, then you are just like them. If you kill them, you cannot kill them.
Oh, yeah.
There's a great speech you can read by him defending their right to life. It's pro-life. And but I started reading it the other day, and it's kind of boring, I thought. But
damn.
Anyway, you can read it.
Because during the fucking French Revolution, who's the guy like Robespierre? Paul Robespierre? Yeah. Was he the guy who was just advocating chopping everyone's heads off, pretty much?
Yeah, Maximilien Robespierre.
Robespierre, yeah, Maximilien. Yeah, there we go. Robespierre. Yeah, he was just like, I don't care, just guillotine everybody.
Yeah, fucking kill them off.
Yeah, Bastille, just burn it. Yeah.
They did a CGI recreation of his face, and he's like the ugliest man ever.
Oh, dude, this is one of Nero, like Emperor Nero.
No.
Oh, he's like a chin beard. This is awful.
You should flash that up.
Yeah, hold on. Wait, Nero, like visualization or something.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. No, there's like they brought up an anime. Emperor. Oh, yeah, here he is. Wait. There he is, yeah.
Oh, what a gross man.
Come on, where is it? Okay, wait. There he is. Yeah, I mean, he's disgusting. Look at this. Just an awful, yeah.
And you can see what a petulant boy man he is.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely the kind of guy who's not going to take care of his empire. He's
look at Robespierre's face.
Wait, Robespierre. Oh, I just spelled it right. Oh, he's one of these guys.
Yeah.
Oh no, he's like a. Oh my God. I guess he had like horrible pockmarking and like facial scars.
Yeah.
Oh, what an ugly bastard, dude. He was.
Poor guy.
Oh my God, dude. It's like like no painter did him justice. They're all like, all right, well, you're just an ugly motherfucker. This is not.
No.
Like, and then, back then you had to like tip the painter extra to like hide your facial features if they were bad. He was not doing that. His head is so bulbous. He has these like bulbs on his head.
Yeah, he's just got a high forehead. Shut up about it. Shut up about high foreheads, Arash.
Such
I'll come to your house and kill you. I live walking distance.
dude, it's always these hideous guys that kill everybody.
Yeah.
They just love a good. Oh, Civ 6 is a Robespierre.
Oh, what?
Oh, it's a mod. Never mind. Yeah, anyway.
Ah, I see.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, speaking of the printing press, so that, it explains why printing press is like the best technology in Civ because it just like, oh man, that cultural output, you just get such a good bonus.
Yeah, no kidding. It's rad. I've never done the thing where you can. Oh, we'll talk about that later.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Thomas Paine.
Thomas Paine.
Focus on the pain.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, he was out helping the French Revolution, and they overruled him. I think he was eventually made like he befriended a certain city to such an extent that they made him their representative in the sort of French Congress,
Oh
in the
wow.
sort
Okay.
of New France. And while he was there, uh, he had some political power, very little, but some. And so he made that speech, and then they were
Hmm.
like, "Ah, let's kill him." And then he moved to England after that, I think.
Oh, so he escaped death in France.
Yeah.
Holy shit. All right.
hmm Well, I mean, no, they didn't want to kill him.
Oh, 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 oh.
They killed the king. They
Oh,
killed,
right. Oh, I
yeah,
see. Okay. Yeah.
Louis. Yeah, Louis. And then he went to France, and then sorry, England, and then he wrote The Age of Reason, which was a book about how Christianity sucks and Judaism sucks and
Wow, that's a
Islam
huge thing
sucks.
for that time.
Yeah, and it's amazing. It's so good. He calls it out. He just like gives it the Bible to you passage by passage, and he like tells you this sucks because of this. This sucks because of
Wow.
this.
So he was
How
just
could
an atheist, I guess, or
he was a deist.
oh, okay. So
So
he just didn't like the organized religion, I
yeah,
guess.
part of the Age of Reason was he was saying no reasonable person can look around themselves without believing in the existence of a God. How can you see a flower and not, you know?
Damn.
But so there was a prime mover, there was a creator, but we have no reason to believe he takes part in human affairs
Dude,
whatsoever.
that's super radical for back then, especially with like France and America becoming like these like new states.
Mhm.
Like that's crazy, like, 'cause, and which
Yeah.
aren't at all religious. So that's like pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and deism was becoming kind of a fad among elites.
Mm.
But you didn't write a book about it.
Yeah, like it was supposed to be like in like secret corners. You weren't supposed to just be like fucking printing it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what a brave guy. He just, I mean, even though he beat his wife, but still, yeah,
Yeah, even though he beat his
yeah.
wife, he still was against slavery and Christianity.
Yeah, what are
Uh,
you gonna do?
so they came after him. Uh, um, the English did because they wanted him out because he wrote that book. And then he moved to America again, and then nobody would talk to him because he wrote that book. Like Washington in particular denounced him.
Really?
Yeah,
So even
because
like people in America were like a little off. Oh wow, okay.
they were really
He was ahead of
upset.
his time. Damn, dude.
Yeah, you should read it. It's so good.
Age of
It's so
Reason.
good.
Okay.
And then he went and died drunk and pretty much alone.
But pretty impactful. Not bad.
He said to have had a part in two revolutions, that is a life.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's fucking incredible. And he was like he was in both like world changing things. That's pretty nuts.
Yeah,
Crazy.
yeah. He was so he was so interesting. And they said he would in arguments he would maintain his point ferociously, no matter what it was. He was
Wow.
ferocious in argument. And he would just never ever back down. He was the stubbornest debater
Damn.
there was.
That's cool. Well, it's probably why he sent that guy like a 219 page thing. He's just like,
Oh, that was Edmund Burke who did
oh,
that.
Edmund Brooks. Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. So Edmund Burke was the guy who said the thing about Marie Antoinette and wrote the big
Ah,
letter.
damn. Well, that's
Yeah.
cool. 'Cause I actually did not know that because I'm pretty fuzzy when it comes to like all those like those new what do you call that like movement of like Locke and
Enlightenment.
Enlightenment? Yeah, those Enlightenment era people.
Yeah, they're so fun though. It's so fun. And then I'm sure I left out some important shit, but uh, uh, I think my favorite book of his is probably The American Crisis. Oh, I can't go without talking about Rights of Man.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
he wrote a book called Rights of Man, which was basically just um, expounding on how people ought to be, how governments ought to, people have rights and governments ought to be equal.
Oh, what
There's
was
a,
was Rights of Man pre-revolution or that's after?
I think it was after.
Oh, okay, okay, interesting.
Yeah, actually, I'm sure it was after.
Okay,
Let's see. Rights of Man book.
that's pretty crazy.
Yep, came out in 1791. Rights of Man did.
Oh, so like right before the American Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
Damn. Okay. Wow.
Yeah, and then
That's
so
pretty amazing.
basically, Rights of Man was saying if a government doesn't do these things, fight them.
Yeah.
It was like
Well,
we're no
especially
longer.
back then when people figured out that that actually is effective. Like, hey, you can just kill the government and it's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That's
And
nuts.
they're yeah, we can kill them.
And they're like,
There's
what?
a
Like, yeah, you can just do that. You can just do it,
yeah,
and then you're the government. You're like, oh, okay, all right. All right.
and then you're the government.
Yeah.
That's funny. And then yeah, I thought that was well. He's just a beautiful life in history.
Damn. Well, dude, very, very good portrait.
Thank you.
I like it. Hell yeah. Well, yeah. I guess should we wrap it up? But that was a good spiel.
Should we? It feels early.
I
We've
think it's been
only
like an
done
hour actually.
we've only done 1 hour and 2 minutes.
That's
I
good,
think.
right?
Is it? We usually do 120.
I know I have to do homework because I'm getting
Oh,
cucked back.
oh,
Yeah,
the truth comes out.
yeah. The truth comes.
You couldn't wait to do homework, huh?
No, no,
Couldn't wait 18 minutes.
no. It's just I just have to prepare for my thesis defense. You know, yeah,
We get it.
yeah. You know, it's just a grad school. It's not. It's not.
Our three fans understand.
Yeah, the
Our
one
only
guy who,
fans.
the guy who thought this was a podcast for something else, yeah, is gonna be hating that. That
Oh,
happened. Are you saying this happened or this occurred?
and they did
That
say,
happened. Oh man, that's the wrong one.
was that podcast you have? When was it?
Yeah, when was it? Ah, wrong one. Well, see,
Wrong one. All
yeah,
right. Now that's all I have to say about that.
that was great. Hell yeah!
Uh,
I think this is number 9 or 10, but we're almost in the double digits.
yeah, we just have to have more than they have Star Warses.
Exactly. That's
Yeah,
yeah.
that's all we need.
What is it like? How many Star Wars are there? Like 12 or
Oh,
9?
there's so many now.
I don't even.
There's if you count Mandalorian, there's one, Rogue One, and there's Solo, and
The
then what else is there?
333, right? It says no. Oh, that is like what are they? 12, 13, 14?
Yeah,
That's too many Star Wars. That's crazy.
that's so many Star
Yeah,
Wars. We
3
gotta
should be the
catch up.
max. Yeah,
We've been doing this podcast like half a year, and we haven't caught up to Star Wars.
yeah, exactly.
Crazy. All right. Well, I'll talk to you soon, man.
Hell yeah, man. All right, see ya.
Bye. Have fun.
Oh yeah. Oh.